You're at the Church of Rock. Barry Henssler's on the line. Barry, how are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. What's the latest?
Are you in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Yeah, I don't know, for some weird reason I thought maybe either Ohio or Michigan. I didn't know, and then
Nah, I've lived in Chicago for years and years and years.
Yeah, you were a DJ there or do you still do that kind of stuff? I know you used to.
I mean, I will, but I mean, in general, I DJ'd when I moved here because it was like the only, it was like it was employment, and I ended up sort of getting into it and being part of a drum and bass night that was pretty legendary here.
Yes,
and
DJ.
And, so once we send punk rock at their divorce party or something, I'm all for it.
There you go, man. You DJ Chamber.
But I'm not actively looking to DJ,
DJ Chamberweed.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm going to take people back in time because it's a music show, and we like the NECROS. We play the NECROS music on this show, and I've been a fan since the 80s. The first time I ever played up in an actual punk rock club was opening for you guys in 84, man, at Tuts in Chicago.
Yeah, right. At Tuts, right? Wasn't it?
Tuts in Chicago, 1984.
Yep. Right on. I've got a ticket for that Tesco V gave me for a Joy Division show at Tuts, but then that didn't happen because the tour obviously didn't hapen.
Oh, wow. Because, yeah.
Yeah, Tuts was a legendary club,
Yeah, you guys were like...
It became a tanning place.
Did it really?
It might be even a tanning place now. I forget what's in there, but I just remember at one point, anytime I'd drive by there, I'd be like, oh man, there's where Tuts was. and then it's like 24-hour tanning or so,
That's hilarious, man. The last time I saw you was actually 1987, and I think it was Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, at that Fluid show.
That's right. I couldn't believe. I was thinking, who the hell was that gig with in the Fluid? I forgot about them.
Yeah, and it was like a university video game parlor or something that was on like a university's campus, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I just remember it was a video, and like I had that pool tables, maybe.
You're right about.
The Fluid were great that night.
Yeah, the Fluid were fantastic. That whole show was killer, man, and it was like.
Yeah, man.
I kept thinking it was like a bowling alley or something, but you're right. It was a university sort of some weird, arcade thing. And
you were managing Gigi Allen at the time.
At the time I was helping him book stuff and write some stuff here and there, but I don't know if I was managing, so to speak.
I don't know. I thought that was your story.
Well, yeah,
maybe you were just pretending like, manage him. You'd like to manage that guy, right?
Well, actually, I was doing gigs with him and setting up gigs for quite a while in 86,
right
87.
Yeah, no, I knew that.
Yep.
That's cool, man.
What about you, though, dude? What's your favorite memories? Is your favorite memory of musical period of your life like the NECROS or a Big Chief? Or what's your favorite stuff that you've been a part of?
I don't know. I don't have... I'm stoked about both things. I'm actually working on a NECROS book right now.
Really?
That's gonna coincide with the reissues of the records.
Killer.
That are coming out next year. And also we're doing a fuzz pedal that Daredevil Effects is doing the manufacturing for. It's a Conquest for Deaf on one channel and a Tangled Up sound on another, like a switch, like a dual settings fuzz box.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
With Mark Dancy's going to do the graphics. The guy who did all the stuff for Big Chief. Yeah. And who was the guitar player in Big Chief and like Motor Booty, worked on Motor Boo and stuff like that. I don't know. And now, man, I'll go to hardcore gigs now, or I go to like lots of other shows. I'm very into music, and I'm not sort of nostalgic. I'm not sort of there's nothing good now, or I'm not that way. I'm definitely way more curious about checking new music out and old music and whatever. So I mean, they say it's like, those were the good old days. I'm like, the good old days are every day,
You know what? I say the same thing quite often, my friend.
These are the good old days.
But yeah, man, I mean, going on tour with Big Chief, we went to Europe a lot. That was always really fun. And the NECROS, we toured a bunch, and that was good, for the time.
What was it like touring with Megadeth?
Pretty hilarious, because it was back then it was kind of before metal and hardcore sort of, it was like one of the earliest sort of like hardcore bands touring with a metal band tours, so lots of people liked us, but sometimes they, it was like metalheads were like, what is this punk shit? We all had like long hair and stuff. I don't know how they would differentiate between what was punk and what was metal, but but yeah, man, let me see, I'm trying to think what to tell you about that. I mean, those dudes were pretty crazy. The drummer was very into drugs, and one of the guitar players was very into drugs, and Mustaine, I think, was partying a lot, and I don't know, man. It was a good crazy time, and like speed metal, was becoming the big thing, sort of, and Megadeth, they didn't have a hit or anything, but they had a record on Capitol, so, we were playing, pretty large sized venues, which was a really good thing for, like a punk rock band from Maumee, Ohio, to get into large venues like that,
Absolutely.
It was always a good time. The only downside was, the middle band was this band Overkill, who were nice people, but they were like really kind of like sort of butthurt that they had at one point been as big as Megadeth, and then Megadeth kind of like
overshot them. Yeah.
So they would, they thought they were like as big as Megadeth, so they would put all their gear on stage and wouldn't move their gear. So like sometimes we had stages where there was like 3 sets of gear on them, and that could be bad.
Well,
that's a bad thing about the metal scene is they're all like, we're a big deal. We don't move our back line, just that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my only negative memory, because we'd pull into a place and be like, great, where are we going to set up?
I can relate, bro. I got to ask you about the Misfits, man. I had some listeners that wanted me to talk to you and ask you. You guys toured with the Misfits. You also played with them on their last show they did with Danzig and the Boys. What was it like? How did you guys get connected originally, and when's the last time you talked to Glenn?
We were really big fans of them, and we didn't even know that they had singles out. The only thing we had seen was Beware, which was like a comp of singles, right? And they had like pictures. They'd send pictures around, but like they're very, I don't know. It was like, they had like a huge mystique because they didn't really show their faces. Like you couldn't really, and there was no internet to like look up like Danzig's 8th grade art class picture, like like now. Now you can find pictures of like Glenn's house and the bricks and like, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So, but at the time, they were this huge mystery, and they were coming through Detroit, and we got on I guess they had played Detroit once before, but it was like we couldn't get into bookies where they were playing because most of us were like under 21 or even under 18. So we didn't see them the first time they played in Detroit, but we got on the bill, the second time, which was at Bookies, and they were amazing. And it was kind of before they were, we always make this joke that the NECROS ruined the Misfits. Like before the NECROS were involved with the Misfits, it was like it was before they were like, they weren't befouled by hardcore yet.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's extreme words, kind of, but so they were, they had the more melodic, Ramones-y kind of tempo, and they were great, and Doyle was mostly in tune because he was playing a guitar that wasn't like broken and glued back together, and which is what would happen when we were touring with them. They'd break their guitars, and they'd be at sound check with this gray Duco gluing their guitars together, and I'm like, how do they think he's going to stay in tune ever, right?
That's funny.
I'm trying to think what else. We got to see them every night, man, and it was great. And they were like one of my all-time favorite bands. And even now, when you think about the Misfits, it's like if you are not the biggest fan or whatever, to see how good they really are, go see a Misfits cover band. And even if the band is terrible, like if they can't barely play, if they're playing those songs, man, the songs are genius,
That's a great point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, we got to see them at Florentine Gardens, open for Discharge. We weren't on that bill, but we were there. And 45 Grave was on the bill as well. I'm trying to think who else. The Adams, Izzy Stradlin's from Guns N' Roses. Old band was one of the opening acts on that night.
Trippy.
I'm trying to think who else. Oh, the Lude were on that bill as well. So yeah, we got to go all around the nation with them. We did like 28 shows in like 30 days, and there's that famous story about those guys going to the graveyard in New Orleans with like a bunch of people in tow.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And that guy Mike X from the hell is his band called? That New Orleans God, what is it? God Hell, or what the hell are they called? Godsmack? No, what's that band?
Godsmack?
I don't know, anyway, they're from New Orleans. What the hell are they called? I can't.
It escapes my memory too, bro.
An Alzheimer's moment. But anyway, there's a picture of him on Instagram today wearing a NECROS shirt saying something about that. It's like, what band is that?
That's awesome.
Anyway, and then we were supposed to play Florida the next night, and the promoter was too cheap and wanted the Misfits to pay the NECROS out of their percentage or whatever, and so it was basically they were trying to get us to play for free, and the distance to go to Florida from New Orleans at that point was way too far, so instead of telling the promoters that we had canceled, they told the promoters that we were still in jail from the night before, from breaking into the graveyard in New Orleans.
Oh wow!
We were asleep in the van, or we were pretending to be asleep in the van outside of it when the police rolled up.
Wow!
And they're like, "You what kind of neighborhood this is? Get out of here!" So we took off, and it was so. The entourage that followed us to this graveyard was like, one guy was on a really loud motorcycle, and like they were doing everything short of broadcasting, "Hey, bust us!" We're breaking into a graveyard at 2 a.m. So
just good old childhood fun.
And then in DC we played with Void was on the bill, and it was their last show, and they were amazing. And we were standing outside Vivian Green's house where we were staying, and I'm standing next to Glenn Danzig, and we're standing next to the Misfits van, like the red Spidey van, and we see two people walking up the street, and as they come up, one person's like flashing a flashlight at the ground, and the other person's walking a dog, right? And we look, and it's Henry Kissinger, and like a Secret Service guy. And it was just the weirdest, most surreal moment, right? And
what the hell?
When I used to tell the story, I'd be like, the weirdest aspect to it was that we saw Henry Kissinger. But now I'm telling you, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm standing next to Glenn Danzig, and we see Henry Kissinger. It's like a fever dream you'd have after eating too many Doritos or something, right? It's so, like, the weirdest aspect is me standing next to Glenn Danzig, who I haven't seen since 1984, you know.
So you haven't seen Glenn since 84?
No. You know, there's this thing Tesco V always said, something like, before 84, friends forever. After 84, friends no more with Glenn. Like, there was this weird sort of break towards the end of Samhain where, you know, he just stopped, you know, hanging out, you know, with us and with Tesco, and, you know, the whole he sort of separated away. And I think it was like once he met the Metallica people, you know, he didn't have time for us peasants. And also, no one, you know, we liked Samhain, but Samhain were not the Misfits, you know?
Well, you know, I appreciate your take on that. That's interesting stuff, Barry. I really dig it, man. What do you so long ago, it's like, I'm lucky I have any memory of any of it. Oh gosh, I can have empathy there. Hey, man, what do you do today? What are you doing these days? I got a studio, and I'm very into like modular synthesizers and kind of noise and stuff like that, and I'm gearing up to start recording and potentially make a new record. Wow, that's awesome.
You know, I'm working with this guy Angel and Desmo, who's like a drummer and a multi-instrumentalist guy. But it's early days for that, and it's just I have like a pretty nice setup, so I'm kind of like wasting my time by not really using it, like, because for the last, like, since the pandemic, you know, I just kind of been woodshedding and like learning technique and, like, you know, just sort of gearing up, and because in the NECROS and in Big Chief, I wasn't super involved in the studio really. But after that, when I started DJing drum and bass, I got into working with like sequencing gear and synths and just stuff that can get gnarly tones with. It's not like fluffy, you know, new agey. I mean, it's more punk rock than most punk rock, really.
That's awesome.
And if you're on Facebook, every once in a while I post videos of stuff I'm working on, but you know, I just kind of kick around, man. You know, I travel a lot. You know, I've been to like Africa like 3 times in the past 5 years.
Wow.
You know, I kind of have been. In 2016, I started making travel like a priority. I went and I stayed in New Orleans for like the month of January, you know, because I always wanted to like kind of dig in down there, and I usually would just pass through and play one night and then leave, you know. And so I've been making, and then the pandemic came up, kind of put a kibosh on that. Right.
Yeah.
But since everything's, you know, I guess it's probably like a vague memory for people at this point. But since things have opened up, I've started traveling again, and I'm going to travel to Spain and Portugal towards the end of the year and take a break from working on this book.
Well, when can we expect that to come out, by the way?
All of it's going to be probably around the fall, late summer, early fall of 2025.
All right. Well, dude, it's been good.
Conquest will be like a vinyl reissue around then, and then Tangled Up, it will be reissued, and then there's going to be a comp album with demos and live and like the singles and all that kind of stuff. And
So
it's a
killer.
collaborative thing between Touch and Go and Third Man.
Man. Well, we're looking forward to the music. Thanks a million for joining us.
Right
We're
on, man.
gonna roll into.
I didn't rabble ramble on too much.
No, this has been super interesting. I just kept thinking, man, I could talk to this guy for a couple hours, and I would never get bored.
All right.
Yeah, thanks a million,
Be here
man.
now, my man.
What's that?
Be here now.
Be here now, my man.
Of course.
Amen, my brother. All right, Barry Henssler.
Rom, bloody.
Rom. All right, thanks. Hey, man, take care of the Windy City there.
All right.
All right,
Good
brother.
talking to you.
You too, bro.
See you later,
take it easy.